Today I thought I would do a little ruffle stitching tutorial for y'all. Nothing fancy. I usually start with about anywhere from 8 to 15 inches of fabric. That's anywhere from 1 to 2 inches wide. It needs to be wide enough to go on either side of the foot so you can grab it. For straight stitch, I usually do 3.5 and 3.5 on my sewing machine setting. And I'm holding up the number 4 because I count 4 chugs of the sewing machine before I fold the next ruffle part, if that makes sense. So it makes 4 chug sounds, up, down, and then I stop it and go ahead and do another probably 1/4 of an inch tuck and start feeding it under the foot. And as I push it through for 4 more, it grabs that one and holds it in place. You can do wider ruffles by doing 5 or 6 chugs of the sewing machine. I know that's not the official term, but it's the only way I can describe it. But I usually do anywhere between 4 and 5. So that's just a straight stitch, straight ruffle, stitch down the middle. On this one, I'm doing a stitch more to one side. This is a little bit more difficult because you have very little to grab hold to on the other side. As you can see, my left hand is struggling quite a bit. It's not my favorite type of ruffle to do. There may be an easier way to do this, but I usually am not able to get any more than about maybe 1/3 of an inch inward, just because I can't grab the fabric. And I like to have the frayed ends, so I usually like to rip the pieces of fabric into strips as opposed to cutting. It also makes sure that you get an even strip all the way down. There you see that we have a one-sided ruffle, and this just lets it tuck out a little farther when you sew it onto a page or the top of a tag. I'm doing a zigzag stitch on this one. This just gives it a little bit of a different look. When I do a zigzag stitch on a ruffle, I'll usually mimic the same stitch when I actually sew it down to a page. Same with the straight stitch. I usually try to follow the path. It's not going to be exact, but I usually do choose the same stitch format when I glue it down to whatever I'm sewing it down to. Some fabrics are easier than others. This is a really thin cotton broadcloth, so it's very easy to maneuver. But some of the fabrics that I've used are linen type, canvasy type things, and those are a good bit harder to make cooperate going under the needle. That's what a zigzag stitch ruffle looks like. Back to the straight stitch and the 3.5, 3.5. So this just shows you that you don't just have to do fabric. You can do satin ribbon, tulle, anything like that will work in the same type of ruffle technique. This is crepe paper. So these are just the party streamers that you buy in all different colors at the Dollar Tree or at Walmart. And you just fold it the same way. It tends to crease instead of gently fold. So you have to make sure that you get it just right before you move forward with your sewing, because sometimes it'll have a double fold, which is fine if that's the look that you're going for. Again, this is junk journaling. It's not supposed to be exact. It's more of a free form art technique, and that's why I love it so much. So don't stress so much about it if it's not a perfect fold or if your ruffles are not exactly the same width between them. So the crepe paper turns out really fun and festive. And here I'm just showing where you don't have to fold the folds perpendicular to where you're sewing. I am alternating diagonal folds here. And you can do this with strips of sheet music as well, and it turns out so super cool. But I'm just demonstrating this with crepe paper. So you can see how sheet music would be cool done like that as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.